We all deal with risks every single day. Some are small, some are huge and complicated. But what if you could see the entire story of a risk from start to finish, all in one simple picture? Well, that's what we're talking about today, a really powerful visual tool called the bow tie method. You know, it all starts with a question you've probably asked yourself a million times while driving. Should I overtake this car? In that split second, your brain is doing this incredibly fast, almost unconscious risk assessment. You're weighing the causes, what could happen, and whether you're really in control of the situation. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The real game changer isn't just having that gut instinct. It's when we take that process and turn it into a conscious, structured way of thinking. It's about shifting from just reacting to having a real framework to guide our choices, big and small. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll see how risk scales up. Then we'll learn the language, the anatomy of a risk. After that, we'll actually build the bow tie diagram. Then we'll get into the most important part, our defenses or barriers. We'll see it in action with a case study. And finally, we'll look at how this is so much more than a tool. It's about building a whole new culture. All right, first up, risk is everywhere. That choice about overtaking a car, it has a few moving parts. But now, imagine you're managing the risk for something like a major airport, a chemical plant, or a massive IT project. The core logic is exactly the same, but the complexity just explodes. So here's the core problem, right? How can any big organization juggle dozens, maybe hundreds of interconnected risks without just getting completely lost in the chaos? They need a clear, systematic way to see it and manage it. And that is the exact problem the bow tie method was invented to solve. Okay, so to tackle that problem, we need to be speaking the same language. That's what this next part is all about. There are 4 really key terms we've got to get down before we can build our bow tie. First up is the hazard. Now, this is important. The hazard is not the bad thing that happens. It's the thing or the situation that has the potential to cause harm. Think of it as a danger that we've chosen to live with, like driving a car or storing fuel in a tank. It's a normal part of the operation that, if things go wrong, could cause a real problem. Next, we have the top event. This is the absolute heart of our analysis. It's that one single critical moment where you lose control over the hazard. So in our driving example, the top event isn't the crash, it's the moment you lose control of the car. That's the one thing you are desperately trying to stop from happening. So, what could cause you to lose control? Well, those are the threats. Threats are the active triggers. For losing control of a car, a threat might be a slippery road or someone braking hard in front of you. They're the specific things that kick off that whole negative chain reaction. And if that top event does happen, what's the fallout? Those are the consequences. These are the bad outcomes we really want to avoid, like injury to the driver or damage to the car. So now that we've got the lingo down, let's see how it all fits together in a picture. Which brings us to the star of the show, the power of the bow tie. And I want you to think of this not just as a diagram, but as a visual story. It maps up the entire risk scenario from beginning to end. The real genius of the bow tie is how it organizes this story so perfectly. It puts that central problem, the top event, right in the middle. The causes, or threats, flow in from the left, and all the potential bad outcomes, the consequences, flow out to the right. Let's actually build one right now. We start right in the center with our top event, that moment we lose control. That's the knot in our bow tie. Then over on the left-hand side, we list out all the credible threats, all those potential causes that could lead to that central event. And now let's add the other side of the bow. Over on the right, we list all the potential consequences that could happen if that top event occurs. And just like that, you see the shape. Causes flow in, the event happens, and the consequences flow out. But wait, the story's not complete. Something's missing. What are we actually doing about all this? This is where the most critical part comes in. We add our defenses, and in the language of this method, they're called barriers. These are all the controls we put in place to manage this risk. And boom, here's the full picture. On the left side, between the threats and the event, we put our preventive barriers. Their job is to stop a threat from ever causing the top event in the first place. Then, on the right side, we have our recovery barriers. Their job is to soften the blow and reduce the consequences if the event does happen. It's a complete strategy all in one visual. So let's zoom in on these defenses.
In this next section, we're going to dig into how these barriers, our lines of defense, actually work, because understanding this is key to making this whole thing effective in the real world.
Think about it this way. A preventative barrier is like having good tires with plenty of tread. Its job is to stop you from losing control of the car in the first place. A recovery barrier, on the other hand, is like your airbag. It's not going to stop you from losing control, but if you do, it's there to lessen the harm. And you absolutely need both types. So how does any good barrier actually function? Well, it has to do three things. First, it has to detect that something is going wrong. Then it has to decide what the right response is. And finally, it has to act to change what happens next. You know, a smoke detector that senses smoke but doesn't make any noise is a failed barrier. It's that simple, but so powerful when you think about it. All right, theory is great, but what does this look like in a real-world business situation? Let's move on and put it to work with a great case study from the source material, a super complex data center migration project. Okay, so in this case, the big top event everyone wants to avoid is exceeding the project deadline. Let's look at one threat: transport issues. A good preventative barrier would be to plan alternative routes and have backup trucks ready. But here's where it gets interesting. What if your barrier fails? We have an escalation factor. In this case, the drivers don't know the route. That could make your barrier useless. So you need another barrier just for that factor, like driver training and giving them maps. This is the magic of the bow tie. It forces you to think about how your defenses themselves can fail. And that really brings us to the big idea here. The bow tie is so much more than just a diagram you draw in a meeting. It's a tool for building an entire culture of foresight. You know, organizations kind of grow up when it comes to how they handle risk. Many start at the pathological stage. Basically, who cares as long as we don't get caught? Then they might become reactive. Okay, we'll fix things when they break. The goal, though, is to become proactive, where you're actively looking for risks. And the ultimate level is generative, where managing risk is just part of everyone's job, every single day. It's just how business is done. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's the biggest risk you're facing right now? Maybe at work, maybe in your personal life. What's your top event? What are the real threats? And more importantly, what barriers, both preventive and recovery, do you have in place? And are they actually as strong as you think they are? I promise you, sketching out a quick bow tie for it might just change